Imagine this. You're scrolling through Instagram, seeing friends on exotic vacations and wearing designer clothes. Suddenly you feel the urge to book a trip or buy that trendy outfit you can't really afford. Sound familiar? That feeling is your ego talking, and it's keeping you broke. In the next few minutes, we'll explore why we're so easily influenced by social media and how to break free from the cycle of comparison and overspending. The hidden price tag of impressing others. Let's talk about something we've all experienced. That little voice in our head that whispers, "Buy it, you'll look amazing." We've all been there, standing in front of a store window or scrolling through our favorite online shop, eyeing that perfect item that'll make us feel like $1,000,000. But have you ever stopped to consider how much these little indulgences are really costing you? Think about the last time you splurged on something just to keep up with your friends or coworkers. Maybe it was a fancy dinner at that new restaurant everyone's been raving about, or a designer accessory you just had to have because your bestie got one too. These purchases might seem harmless in the moment, but they add up faster than you might think. Let's break it down with some real numbers. Imagine you're earning $50,000 a year after taxes. That's about $4,166 a month. Now let's say you're spending just $200 a month on things you don't really need, but buy to impress others or fit in. That's roughly 5% of your monthly income. It might not sound like much, but over a year, that's $2,400 gone on status purchases. But here's where it gets really eye-opening. If you took that $200 a month and invested it instead, assuming an average annual return of 7%, you'd have over $30,000 after 10 years. That's right. Your status spending could be costing you tens of thousands in potential wealth. And it's not just about the big splurges. Those small, everyday choices can have a huge impact too. Think about your morning coffee run. A $5 latte 5 days a week adds up to $100 a month. That's $1,200 a year just on fancy coffee. Now, I'm not saying you should never treat yourself, but it's worth considering how these habits affect your long-term financial health. Let's look at another common scenario. You're invited to a wedding and immediately think, "I need a new outfit." But do you really? The average person spends about $200 on a new outfit for a special occasion. If you attend just 3 events a year where you buy something new, that's $600 annually. Over 10 years, that's $6,000 spent on clothes you probably only wore once or twice. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, social media. We're constantly bombarded with images of picture-perfect lives, luxurious vacations, and the latest must-have items. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking we need these things to be happy or successful. But here's the thing. A lot of what we see online isn't real. People are curating their lives, showing only the highlights, and often going into debt to maintain an image. Consider this. A survey found that 40% of millennials have gone into debt to keep up with their friends' lifestyles. That's a staggering number of people potentially ruining their financial futures just to look good in the present. Let's break down the real cost of that designer bag you've been eyeing. Say it's $1,000. If you put that on a credit card with an 18% interest rate and only make minimum payments, it could take you over 7 years to pay off and cost you an additional $800 in interest. Suddenly, that bag doesn't seem so fabulous, does it? But it's not just about the money. The true cost of impressing others goes beyond dollars and cents. It's the stress of living paycheck to paycheck, the anxiety of mounting debt, and the feeling of being trapped in a job you hate because you can't afford to leave. It's the lost opportunities for experiences that truly matter, like traveling or pursuing a passion project. Think about it this way. Every time you spend money to impress others, you're trading a piece of your financial freedom for a moment of validation. Is it really worth it? Now, I know what you might be thinking, but looking good makes me feel confident. And you're right. Confidence is important, but true confidence comes from within, not from what you wear or own. It comes from knowing you're making smart choices that align with your values and long-term goals. Here's a challenge for you. For the next month, before you make any non-essential purchase, ask yourself, am I buying this for me or to impress others? Keep a tally of how much you save by saying no to status purchases. You might be surprised at how much you've been spending without even realizing it. Remember, the goal isn't to never treat yourself or enjoy nice things. It's about being intentional with your spending and making sure your money is going towards what truly matters to you. Because at the end of the day, financial freedom is way more impressive than any designer label or flashy car. When social media becomes your financial advisor. We've all been there, scrolling through our social media feeds, minding our own business, when suddenly we're hit with an overwhelming urge to buy something we didn't even know we wanted 5 minutes ago. It's like our favorite apps have a direct line to our wallets, and they're not afraid to use it. But have you ever stopped to wonder just how much influence those perfectly curated posts are having on your spending habits? Let's face it, social media has become more than just a place to share cat videos and vacation photos. It's turned into a virtual shopping mall, where every scroll brings a new temptation. And it's not just the ads, it's the influencers, the friends, and even the random strangers whose lives seem so much more glamorous than ours. Think about the last time you made a purchase because of something you saw online. Maybe it was a new skincare product that promised to give you that Instagram-worthy glow, or a trendy outfit that your favorite fashion blogger was rocking. Now, ask yourself, would you have bought those things if you hadn't seen them on social media? The truth is, social media has become our unofficial financial advisor, and it's not always giving us the best advice. Those picture-perfect posts we see aren't just harmless eye candy. They're creating unrealistic standards that can lead us to spend way more than we should. It's like we're all caught up in a game of financial keep-up, and our bank accounts are paying the price. But here's the kicker. It's not just about wanting to look good for the gram. Social media taps into something much deeper. Our fear of missing out, or FOMO as the cool kids call it. When we see our friends living it up on exotic vacations or showing off their latest purchases, it's hard not to feel like we're falling behind. And that feeling can push us to make some pretty questionable financial decisions. Let's talk about those swipe up to buy links for a second. They seem so innocent, right? Just a quick tap, and you could have that amazing product that's going to change your life. But here's what's really going on. Those links are designed to exploit our insecurities and desires. They're creating a sense of urgency, making us feel like we need to buy now or miss out forever. And before we know it, we're making impulsive purchases that our future selves will regret. Now, I'm not saying all influencers are out to drain your bank account. Many of them genuinely love the products they're promoting. But it's important to remember that for many, this is their job. They're being paid to make those products look as desirable as possible. And they're really good at it, but it's not just about the products themselves. Social media has a way of making us feel like we need to keep up with a certain lifestyle. We see people our age jet-setting around the world, dining at fancy restaurants and wearing designer clothes. And suddenly our perfectly fine life starts to feel, well, not so fine. This pressure to keep up with our peers is nothing new, but social media has turned it up to 11. Those curated images of wealth and success we see online, they're creating standards that are not just unrealistic, they're often completely fake. But that doesn't stop us from feeling like we need to match those lifestyles, even if it means spending money we don't have. And here's where things get really interesting. Research has shown that just anticipating a purchase can trigger a release of dopamine in our brains. That's the same feel-good chemical that's released when we eat chocolate or fall in love. So when we're scrolling through Instagram and see something we want to buy, our brains are already getting a little hit of happiness. It's no wonder we find it so hard to resist hitting that add to cart button. But here's the problem. That rush of excitement we get from buying something new, it doesn't last. And when it fades, we're left with the reality of our dwindling bank balance and the stress of trying to make ends meet. It's a vicious cycle that can lead to serious financial trouble. So, what can we do about it? Well, the first step is awareness. Next time you feel the urge to buy something you've seen on social media, take a moment to pause. Ask yourself, do I really need this? Or am I just trying to keep up with what I'm seeing online? Is this purchase aligned with my long-term financial goals, or am I just chasing a temporary high? It's also worth taking a closer look at who you're following on social media. If your feed is full of people who make you feel bad about your own life or constantly tempt you to overspend, it might be time for a digital declutter. Unfollow accounts that trigger unhealthy spending habits and seek out content that aligns with your financial goals instead. Remember, the relationship between our egos and our spending habits is complex. We often make purchases to fulfill our desire for validation and status. But when we equate our self-worth with our possessions, we're setting ourselves up for a never-ending cycle of overspending. The modern-day Joneses. Who are we really trying to keep up with? Let's talk about the pressure to keep up with others financially. You might think you're making smart money choices, but what if I told you that your financial decisions are being shaped by people you've never even met? It's time to unpack the surprising truth about who we're really trying to keep up with in today's world. Think about it. Who are the Joneses in your life? You know, those people you feel like you need to match or outdo when it comes to your lifestyle and spending. Maybe it's your coworker with the fancy car, or your friend who always seems to be on vacation. But here's the thing. The Joneses aren't just your next-door neighbors anymore. They're everywhere, and they're having a bigger impact on your wallet than you might realize. In fact, research shows that more than a quarter of Americans feel pressured to keep up with someone else financially. That's a lot of people making money moves based on what others are doing, not what's best for their own financial future. And you might be surprised to learn who's really influencing these decisions. Family members top the list, with 17% of people feeling the need to keep up with their relatives. Think about it. How often have you felt the urge to splurge on a gift or a family vacation just to match what your siblings or cousins are doing? Then there are friends, with 13% of folks feeling the pressure to match their pals' spending habits. It's like there's this invisible competition going on, and nobody wants to be left behind. But it's not just about who you know personally. Social media has turned everyone into potential Joneses. Every time you scroll through your feed, you're bombarded with images of people living their best lives, or at least what looks like their best lives. It's easy to forget that what you're seeing is often a carefully curated highlight reel, not the full picture of someone's financial reality. Now let's talk about how different generations view this whole keeping up game. If you're part of Gen Z, you might be feeling this pressure more intensely than others. In fact, a whopping 51% of Gen Zers report feeling financially pressured to keep up with others. That's more than half. It makes sense when you think about it. This generation has grown up with social media, where comparisons are constant and the pressure to present a perfect life is intense. But it's not just the younger crowd feeling the heat. Interestingly, higher income earners actually feel more pressured than those with lower incomes. It's like the more money you have, the more you feel you need to prove something. Maybe it's because as your income grows, so does your social circle, and suddenly you're rubbing elbows with people who have even more. It's a never-ending cycle of comparison and consumption. Let's consider how your workplace might be influencing your spending habits. Have you ever felt the need to dress a certain way or drive a particular car just to fit in at the office? Maybe you've stretched your budget for happy hour or client dinners, thinking it's necessary for your career. These workplace expectations can sneak into your financial decisions without you even realizing it. The emotional toll of constantly comparing ourselves to others is real, and it's affecting our bank accounts. When you're always looking at what others have, it's easy to lose sight of your own financial goals. You might find yourself buying things you don't really need or can't truly afford, all in the name of keeping up appearances. This can lead to stress, anxiety, and a cycle of overspending that's hard to break. But here's the good news. The pressure to keep up with the Joneses is often self-imposed, which means it can be overcome. It starts with recognizing where this pressure is coming from and understanding that everyone's financial journey is different. Your coworker with the fancy car might be drowning in debt, while your friend with the modest lifestyle could be quietly building wealth. The key is to focus on your own financial goals and values, not someone else's. Think about what really matters to you in the long run. Is it financial security? The freedom to travel? Being able to help your family? When you align your spending with your true priorities, you'll find it easier to resist the urge to keep up with others. It's also important to remember that wealth isn't always visible. Some of the wealthiest people live relatively modest lifestyles, while others who appear rich might be living paycheck to paycheck. True financial success isn't about showing off. It's about building a stable foundation for your future. The sneaky culprit, lifestyle inflation. Think about the last time you got a raise or a promotion. It felt great, right? That extra money in your paycheck probably had you dreaming about all the things you could finally afford. Maybe you treated yourself to a nicer apartment, started eating out more often, or upgraded your wardrobe. It's natural to want to improve your lifestyle as your income grows. But here's the thing. This seemingly harmless behavior might be quietly sabotaging your financial future. Let's talk about lifestyle inflation. It's a sneaky phenomenon that happens when our spending increases right along with our income. At first glance, it might not seem like a big deal. After all, you're making more money, so why shouldn't you enjoy it? But lifestyle inflation can be a major roadblock on your path to financial stability and wealth building. Think about it. When your expenses grow to match your income, you're essentially staying in the same financial position, just with fancier stuff. You might be earning more, but you're not necessarily saving more or building wealth. It's like running on a financial treadmill. Lots of effort, but you're not really getting anywhere. Now you might be wondering, is this really such a big problem? Well, the numbers paint a pretty clear picture. Research shows that about 77% of American households are dealing with some form of debt. That's a staggering statistic, and lifestyle inflation plays a big role in it. When we let our expenses creep up with every pay raise, we often end up living paycheck to paycheck, even at higher income levels. Let's break this down a bit. Say you get a promotion that bumps your salary up by $500 a month. Exciting, right? But then you decide to move to a slightly nicer apartment that costs $300 more per month. You also start treating yourself to nicer meals out, which adds up to about $150 more each month. And let's not forget that new gym membership you've been eyeing. There's another $50. Just like that, your expenses have increased by $500, completely absorbing your raise. Now, I'm not saying you should never improve your lifestyle or enjoy the fruits of your hard work. The key is to be mindful about how and where you're increasing your spending. It's about finding that sweet spot between enjoying life now and setting yourself up for a secure financial future. So how can we keep lifestyle inflation in check? One effective strategy is practicing mindful spending. This means really thinking about why you're making a purchase. Is it something you truly need or value? Or are you just buying it because you can now afford it? Experts suggest reflecting on the motivations behind your purchases and considering whether they align with your personal values and long-term goals. Another helpful approach is to focus on experiences rather than material possessions. Research shows that investing in experiences tends to lead to greater long-term happiness and fulfillment compared to buying things. So instead of upgrading to a luxury car, you might consider planning a memorable vacation or taking up a new hobby. Creating a budget that allocates funds for savings, necessities, and discretionary spending can also provide a framework for making more intentional financial decisions. This doesn't mean you can't enjoy your hard-earned money. It just means being strategic about how you use it. One effective budgeting strategy is to pay yourself first. This means automatically setting aside a portion of your income for savings and investments before you even think about increasing your lifestyle expenses. By doing this, you ensure that your future self benefits from your increased income, not just your present self. It's also important to redefine what needs and wants mean as your income grows. Just because you can afford a more expensive version of something doesn't necessarily mean you need it. For example, a reliable car that gets you from point A to point B is a need. A luxury sports car, while nice, is a want. Being able to distinguish between the two can help you make smarter financial decisions. Remember, the goal isn't to deprive yourself or live like you're still earning an entry-level salary. It's about finding a balance that allows you to enjoy life now while also securing your financial future. Think of it as investing in your long-term happiness and security, rather than just chasing short-term satisfaction. By keeping lifestyle inflation in check, you're giving yourself the gift of financial freedom. You're creating a buffer that can protect you during tough times, and you're building a foundation for future wealth. Plus, you're the truth about status anxiety and your wallet. Have you ever felt that nagging urge to buy something just to fit in? Maybe it's the latest iPhone or a trendy outfit everyone seems to be wearing. We've all been there, feeling that subtle pressure to keep up with our social circle. But here's the thing. This feeling, known as status anxiety, might be secretly draining your bank account. Let's talk about status anxiety and how it affects our spending habits. It's that uncomfortable feeling we get when we worry about our social standing or how others perceive us. And guess what? It can have a massive impact on our financial decisions. Think about the last time you bought something, not because you needed it, but because you wanted to impress others or avoid feeling left out. Maybe it was a fancy dinner at that new restaurant everyone's talking about, even though it was way out of your budget. Or perhaps you splurged on a designer bag because you felt self-conscious about your old one at a work event. These purchases might seem harmless in the moment, but they add up quickly. And the worst part? They're often driven by our fear of judgment rather than our actual needs or values. Louisa Wilcox, an expert on consumer behavior, points out that many of us buy things not for personal satisfaction, but to fit in with societal expectations. We're driven by the fear of missing out, FOMO, and the need for social acceptance. It's like we're constantly trying to prove our worth through our possessions. This mindset can lead to a dangerous cycle of impulsive purchases aimed at boosting our status. Russell Belk, in his book Shiny Objects, talks about how we often value material possessions more for their ability to confer status than for their actual usefulness. Think about it. How many times have you bought something just because it was a certain brand, even if a cheaper alternative would have worked just as well? Status anxiety doesn't just affect our shopping habits. It can seep into all areas of our lives. Maybe you're hesitant to invite friends over because your apartment isn't as nice as theirs. Or perhaps you're stretching yourself thin to send your kids to an expensive private school, even though the local public school is perfectly good. These decisions, driven by our fear of not measuring up, can have serious long-term financial consequences. We might find ourselves living paycheck to paycheck, unable to save for important goals like retirement or a down payment on a house. We might even go into debt trying to maintain an image that doesn't align with our true financial situation. But here's the good news: we can break free from this cycle. The first step is becoming aware of how status anxiety influences our spending decisions. Next time you're about to make a purchase, pause and ask yourself, am I buying this because I truly want or need it? Or am I just trying to impress others? Practicing mindful spending can be a game changer. Instead of impulsively buying something to keep up with others, take a moment to reflect. Ask yourself questions like, will this purchase truly improve my life? Is it aligned with my long-term financial goals? Am I buying this out of genuine desire or just to avoid feeling left out? Remember, true self-esteem and confidence come from within, not from material possessions. Instead of seeking status through spending, focus on building your skills, nurturing your relationships, and pursuing experiences that truly matter to you. Consider investing in experiences rather than things. Research shows that experiences tend to bring more lasting happiness than material possessions. A weekend getaway with friends or a cooking class you've always wanted to try might bring you more joy and less financial stress than a new designer outfit. It's also important to remember that wealth isn't always visible. Some of the wealthiest people live relatively modest lifestyles. They understand that true financial security comes from saving and investing wisely, not from showing off expensive possessions. Building a strong financial foundation can actually boost your confidence more than any status symbol ever could. Knowing you have a solid emergency fund and are on track for your financial goals can give you a sense of security that no designer label can match. Another helpful strategy is to surround yourself with people who share your values. If you're constantly around friends who prioritize expensive outings or lavish purchases, it's natural to feel pressure to keep up. But by connecting with people who understand and support your financial goals, you can create a more positive and supportive environment. Remember, everyone's financial journey is different. What works for your friends or colleagues might not be right for you. It's okay to say no to expensive social outings or to opt for more budget-friendly alternatives. True friends will understand and respect your choices. The millionaire next door: why modesty pays off. You might think you can spot a millionaire from a mile away, but here's a surprising fact. Many self-made millionaires live far below their means. It sounds counterintuitive, right? We often picture wealthy people driving fancy cars, living in mansions, and wearing designer clothes. But the reality is quite different. Let's talk about why modesty might actually be your ticket to financial freedom. Think about the wealthiest person you know. Now, imagine if they weren't flaunting their riches at all. Picture them living in a modest home, driving an older car, and shopping at discount stores. Sounds unlikely? Well, this is often the case for many millionaires who've built their wealth from the ground up. The concept of stealth wealth is becoming more prevalent among self-made millionaires. These are people who choose to live modestly and avoid showing off their wealth. Why? Because this approach allows them to accumulate wealth without the distractions and financial pitfalls that come with a high-profile lifestyle. It's like they've found a secret path to riches that doesn't involve splashing cash around. Let's look at some real-life examples of these everyday millionaires. Many have built their wealth through consistent saving and investing, rather than through high incomes or extravagant lifestyles. They prioritize long-term financial goals over short-term pleasures. It's not about making more money, it's about being smart with the money you have. Now, you might be wondering, how does living below your means lead to financial freedom? Well, it's all about the power of saving and investing. When you're not spending every penny you earn on status symbols or luxury items, you have more money to put towards your future. This extra cash can be invested, allowing it to grow over time thanks to the magic of compound interest. Think about it this way. Every dollar you don't spend on unnecessary items is a dollar that can work for you, earning more dollars. Over time, this can add up to a significant amount of wealth. It's like planting seeds in a garden. The more seeds you plant, or dollars you save, the bigger your harvest will be in the future. Let's talk about delayed gratification. This is a common trait among self-made millionaires. They often resist the urge to make impulsive purchases, understanding that wealth accumulation requires patience and disciplined financial planning. It's not always easy to say no to that shiny new gadget or trendy outfit, but these millionaires know that the payoff in the long run is worth it. Consider this. Every time you choose not to buy something you don't really need, you're essentially paying yourself. You're investing in your future financial security and freedom. It's like giving yourself a raise without having to ask your boss for one. Now you might be thinking, but won't living modestly make me miss out on life's pleasures? Not necessarily. Many self-made millionaires engage in community and social activities that don't require significant spending. This reinforces their values of modesty and financial responsibility. They find joy in experiences and relationships rather than in material possessions. The beauty of this approach is that it frees you from the societal pressures that drive many to overspend just to maintain appearances. When you're not constantly trying to keep up with the Joneses, you can focus on what truly matters to you. You're in control of your finances, rather than letting your finances control you. Living modestly doesn't mean you can never treat yourself or enjoy nice things. It's about being intentional with your spending and ensuring that your purchases align with your long-term financial goals. It's about understanding the difference between wants and needs and making smart choices that will benefit you in the long run. So, how does this connect to our own shopping habits? Well, next time you're tempted to buy something just to impress others or keep up with trends, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, is this purchase bringing me closer to my financial goals or pushing me further away? Remember, true wealth isn't about what you show off to others. It's about the financial security and freedom you build for yourself. The self-worth price tag. How much are you really paying? Speaking of shopping habits, there's an interesting connection between what we buy and how we feel about ourselves. Ever wonder why that new outfit or gadget makes you feel so good, even if just for a moment? It turns out the price tag on your self-esteem might be higher than you think. Let's unpack this together. Think about the last time you had a rough day and decided to treat yourself to a little retail therapy. Maybe you bought those shoes you've been eyeing for weeks or splurged on that fancy skincare set. For a moment, you felt better, right? That's because shopping can give us a quick mood boost. But here's the thing. That feel-good rush is often short-lived, and it might be masking a deeper issue. When we use shopping as a way to feel better about ourselves, we're tying our self-worth to material possessions. It's like we're trying to fill an emotional void with stuff. The problem is, it's never enough. You might feel great for a day or two after your purchase, but then that feeling fades, and you're back to square one. And what's worse, you might find yourself in a cycle of buying more and more, always chasing that temporary high. This behavior isn't just about wanting nice things. It's often rooted in something much deeper, our ego. Our ego plays a big role in shaping how we see ourselves and our place in the world. And sometimes, it tricks us into thinking that owning certain things will make us more valuable as people. We start to believe that having the latest iPhone or designer bag will somehow make us more worthy of respect or admiration. But let's think about this for a second. Does owning expensive stuff really make you a better person? Of course not. Yet so many of us fall into this trap. We buy things to project an image of success and status, hoping it'll make us feel more confident or respected. This is what experts call the extended self. The idea that we see our possessions as part of who we are. The tricky part is, this kind of thinking can be a real money drain. When we're constantly buying things to boost our ego or self-esteem, we're not just spending money, we're potentially sabotaging our financial future. Every dollar spent on unnecessary purchases is a dollar that could have been saved or invested. Over time, this can add up to a significant amount of lost wealth. But it's not just about the money. Research shows that tying our self-worth to material possessions can actually make us less happy in the long run. Studies have found that people who focus on material goods tend to have lower levels of life satisfaction. They're more likely to feel anxious or depressed, even if they have all the stuff they thought they wanted. So why do we keep doing this to ourselves? Part of it is the world we live in. We're constantly bombarded with ads that play on our insecurities. They tell us we're not good enough, but their product can fix that. Social media doesn't help either. We're always seeing carefully curated versions of other people's lives, which can make us feel like we need to keep up. But here's the good news. Once you understand this pattern, you can start to break free from it. It starts with recognizing when you're making purchases to boost your self-esteem rather than because you truly need or want something. Next time you're about to buy something, ask yourself, am I buying this because it aligns with my values and goals, or am I just trying to feel better about myself? There are healthier ways to boost your self-worth that don't involve swiping your credit card. Investing in experiences rather than things can lead to more lasting happiness. Spending time with loved ones, pursuing hobbies, or volunteering are all great ways to feel good about yourself without breaking the bank. It's also important to work on building your self-esteem from the inside out. This might mean practicing self-compassion, setting and achieving personal goals, or even seeking support from a therapist or counselor. Remember, your worth isn't determined by what you own. It's about who you are as a person. If you're finding it hard to break the cycle of ego-driven spending, don't be too hard on yourself. It's a common struggle, and there's help available. Financial therapy is a growing field that combines financial planning with mental health treatment. It can help you understand the emotional and psychological factors behind your spending habits and give you strategies to make healthier financial decisions. The mindset shift that could save you thousands. Let's talk about a powerful tool that could revolutionize your finances: your mindset. You might be thinking, wait, how can my thoughts affect my bank balance? Well, it turns out that the way we think about money has a huge impact on how we handle it. And here's the kicker: changing your money mindset could potentially save you thousands. Think about it. Every financial decision you make starts in your head. Your beliefs about money, success, and what you deserve all play a role in how you spend, save, and invest. These thoughts might be costing you more than you realize. So let's dig into this a bit deeper. Consider your current beliefs about money. Do you find yourself thinking things like, "I'll never be good with money," or "rich people are just lucky"? These thoughts might seem harmless, but they can actually hold you back from making smart financial choices. On the flip side, if you believe that you're capable of managing money well, and that wealth is achievable through smart decisions, you're more likely to take actions that align with those beliefs. Now, let's talk about where these money mindsets come from. A lot of our financial attitudes are shaped by our upbringing. Maybe you grew up in a household where money was tight and you learned to be cautious with spending. Or perhaps your family always lived comfortably and you never really thought about budgeting. These early experiences can have a lasting impact on how we view money as adults. But here's the good news: your money mindset isn't set in stone. You can change it, and when you do, it can lead to some pretty amazing financial outcomes. Let's look at some practical ways to shift your money mindset. One powerful concept to explore is the idea of abundance versus scarcity thinking. Scarcity thinking is all about limitations. There's never enough money, opportunities are rare, and financial security is hard to come by. Abundance thinking, on the other hand, focuses on possibilities. It's about believing that there are plenty of opportunities to earn and grow wealth, and that you have the ability to create financial success. Switching from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset can have a huge impact on your financial decisions. When you believe that opportunities are abundant, you're more likely to take calculated risks, invest in yourself, and look for ways to increase your income. This doesn't mean being reckless with your money. It's about seeing possibilities where you might have previously seen obstacles. Another important aspect of shifting your money mindset is practicing mindful spending. This is all about being intentional with your purchases and really thinking about why you're buying something. Are you buying that new gadget because you truly need it? Or are you trying to impress others? By reflecting on the motivations behind your purchases, you can start to break free from impulsive buying habits that might be draining your bank account. Experts suggest that recognizing the influence of ego on our spending can be a game changer. When we understand that true happiness doesn't come from material possessions, but from self-acceptance and meaningful experiences, we can make more intentional financial choices. This mindset shift can help you resist the urge to buy things just to keep up appearances or boost your ego. Now you might be wondering, how can I put this into practice? Well, it starts with awareness. Pay attention to your thoughts about money throughout the day. When you catch yourself thinking negatively or making assumptions about your financial abilities, challenge those thoughts. Replace them with more positive, empowering beliefs. For example, instead of thinking, "I'm terrible with money," try, "I'm learning to make smart financial decisions." This small shift in perspective can lead to big changes in your behavior over time. You might find yourself more motivated to learn about personal finance, more confident in negotiating your salary, or more disciplined in sticking to a budget. Another practical step is to surround yourself with positive financial influences. This could mean following financial experts who promote healthy money mindsets, joining a community of like-minded individuals working on their finances, or even having open conversations about money with friends who have good financial habits. Remember, changing your money mindset isn't about ignoring financial realities or pretending that money troubles don't exist. It's about approaching your finances with a more positive, proactive attitude. It's about believing in your ability to learn, grow, and make smart decisions with your money. The appearance of wealth trap. Are you falling for it? Let's talk about something that might be hitting a little close to home for many of us. Have you ever caught yourself buying something just to look successful or keep up with your friends? It's more common than you might think, and it's part of what we call the appearance of wealth trap. This sneaky little habit could be the very thing keeping you from building real, lasting wealth. Think about it. We live in a world where it's so easy to look rich without actually being rich. Social media has us scrolling through perfectly curated lives, and suddenly we're itching to buy that designer bag or book that luxury vacation. But here's the thing. What if all those status symbols are actually holding you back from true financial success? Let's take a moment to consider the items you own. How many of them are more about creating an image than adding real value to your life? Maybe it's that expensive watch you rarely wear, or the fancy car that's eating up your paycheck in monthly payments. These things might make you look wealthy to others, but they could be draining your bank account faster than you realize. Now, I'm not saying we should all live like hermits and never treat ourselves, but there's a big difference between enjoying life and trying to keep up an appearance that's not sustainable. The long-term cost of maintaining a wealthy appearance can be staggering. Think about how much money you're spending each month on items or experiences that are mainly for show. Now imagine if you invested that money instead. It could be the difference between living paycheck to paycheck and building a solid financial future. When we focus too much on appearances, it can really mess with our financial goals. Instead of saving for retirement or building an emergency fund, we might find ourselves stretched thin trying to afford the latest trends. It's like we're playing a never-ending game of catch-up, always chasing the next thing that will make us look successful. But here's some good news. There's incredible freedom in breaking free from this trap. Imagine not feeling pressured to buy things just to impress others. Imagine making financial decisions based on what truly matters to you, not what you think others expect of you. That's the kind of freedom that comes when you stop trying to keep up appearances and start focusing on building real wealth. So, how do we make this shift? It starts with being honest with ourselves about our spending habits. Are we buying things because we truly want or need them, or because we think they'll make us look good? Once we can answer that question truthfully, we can start making changes. One strategy for building genuine wealth is to focus on experiences rather than things. Research shows that experiences tend to bring more lasting happiness than material possessions. Plus, they don't come with the same pressure to constantly upgrade or replace them like material goods do. Another powerful approach is to practice what some call stealth wealth. This doesn't mean being secretive about your finances, but rather prioritizing financial stability and modest living over flashy displays of wealth. It's about making smart financial decisions that might not be visible to others, but will pay off big time in the long run. Louisa Wilcox, an expert on consumer behavior, points out that a lot of our spending is driven by social conditioning and what we think society expects of us. She suggests taking a step back before making purchases and really thinking about our motivations. Are we buying something because it aligns with our values and goals? Or because we think it's what we're supposed to do? It's also worth noting that many self-made millionaires live far below their means. They understand that true wealth isn't about showing off, it's about financial security and the freedom to make choices. By resisting the urge to spend on unnecessary items, they're able to invest more and grow their wealth over time. Now I know, changing these habits isn't easy. We're bombarded with messages every day telling us we need to buy more, have more, show more. But remember, every dollar not spent on unnecessary items is a dollar that can be invested in your future. It's like giving yourself a raise. The key is to find joy in experiences and relationships rather than material possessions. When we shift our focus from impressing others to building a strong financial foundation, we often find that our confidence grows in ways no material status symbol could ever match. So, are you falling for the appearance of wealth trap? It's okay if the answer is yes. Many of us have been there. The important thing is recognizing it and taking steps to escape. By being more intentional with your spending and aligning your purchases with your long-term financial goals, you can start building genuine wealth instead of just the appearance of it. Spotting Your Ego in Your Spending, a self-check guide. Let's get personal for a moment. Think about the last big purchase you made. What was really driving that decision? Was it a genuine need, or was there something else at play? It's time to unmask the sneaky ways your ego might be calling the shots when it comes to your money. We all like to think we're in control of our spending decisions, but the truth is there's often an invisible force guiding our wallet. Our ego. And recognizing when your ego is taking the wheel can be trickier than you might expect. But don't worry, we're going to create a self-check guide that'll help you spot those ego-driven purchases before they derail your financial goals. First things first, let's talk about emotions. Our feelings play a huge role in how we spend money, and your ego loves to tap into those emotions. Think about a time when you felt a little down and decided to treat yourself to something nice. Or maybe you were feeling insecure and bought something to boost your confidence. These are classic examples of how our ego can influence our spending. So how can you tell when your ego is the one making the decisions? Here are some questions to ask yourself before making a purchase. Do I really need this, or am I buying it to impress others? This is a biggie. Our ego often pushes us to buy things just to show off or fit in with a certain crowd. If you find yourself justifying a purchase because of how it'll make you look to others, that's a red flag. Am I buying this because I'm feeling emotional right now? Your ego loves to use your emotions as a cover for unnecessary spending. If you're shopping to cheer yourself up or because you're feeling stressed, take a step back and ask if this purchase will really solve the problem. Does this align with my personal values and long-term goals? Your ego is all about instant gratification, but your true self cares about the bigger picture. If a purchase doesn't fit with your values or long-term financial plans, it might be your ego talking. Would I still want this if no one else knew I had it? This is a great way to check if you're buying something for yourself or for the approval of others. If the idea of having something loses its appeal when no one else can see it, that's your ego at work. Now, let's dig a little deeper into how our ego influences our spending. Louisa Wilcox, an expert on consumer behavior, points out that a lot of our spending is driven by social conditioning and societal expectations. We often buy things not because we need them, but because we think that's what we're supposed to do. Think about it. How many times have you bought something because everyone else has one, or because you felt it was expected of you? Maybe it's a certain brand of clothing or the latest tech gadget. Our ego loves to latch onto these social expectations and use them as justification for spending. But here's the thing. Awareness is power. Once you start recognizing the voice of your ego in your spending decisions, you can start making more conscious choices with your money. It's not about never treating yourself or enjoying nice things. It's about making sure those purchases are coming from a place of genuine want or need, not from a place of insecurity or social pressure. Let's talk about mindful spending for a moment. This is all about really reflecting on why you're making a purchase. Before you buy something, take a moment to check in with yourself. Are you excited about this item because it truly adds value to your life, or are you just trying to fill an emotional void? Remember, every purchase is a choice, and every choice is an opportunity to align your spending with your true values and goals. Your ego might try to convince you that you need the latest and greatest of everything, but your authentic self knows what really matters to you. Here's a practical tip. The next time you're about to make a purchase, especially a big one, take a pause. Give yourself 24 hours to think it over. Often, that initial urge to buy something is driven by our ego, and a little time and distance can help us see more clearly. It's also super helpful to keep a spending journal. Write down not just what you buy, but how you were feeling when you bought it. Over time, you might start to see patterns in your spending that you never noticed before. Maybe you always shop online when you're stressed, or you tend to overspend when you're out with certain friends. Recognizing these patterns is the first step to changing them. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't about beating yourself up over every purchase. We're all human, and we all give in to our egos sometimes. The goal here is just to become more aware and make more intentional choices with your money. Breaking the cycle. practical steps to overcome overspending. All right, let's talk about breaking free from the grip of overspending. You've recognized how your ego can influence your spending habits, and that's a huge first step. But awareness alone isn't enough. It's time to turn that knowledge into action. Think about one spending habit you'd like to change right now. Maybe it's those impulse buys when you're scrolling through social media, or perhaps it's the pressure to keep up with your friends' lifestyles. Whatever it is, we're about to explore some practical steps that could transform your relationship with money. Let's start with something simple but powerful: setting clear financial goals. When you have a specific target in mind, it becomes easier to prioritize your spending and resist those unnecessary purchases. Think about what really matters to you. Is it saving for a down payment on a house, building an emergency fund, or maybe planning that dream vacation you've been putting off? Write these goals down and keep them somewhere visible. Every time you're tempted to make an impulse purchase, look at your goals and ask yourself, does this align with what I really want? Now, let's talk about creating a budget. I know, budgeting isn't exactly the most exciting topic, but hear me out. A well-planned budget isn't about restriction, it's about freedom. It's about giving yourself permission to spend on the things that truly matter to you. Start by tracking your expenses for a month. Be honest with yourself. No judgment, just observation. Then, allocate your money into different categories: necessities, savings, and yes, some fun money too. Here's a pro tip: try the pay yourself first method. As soon as you get your paycheck, automatically set aside a portion for savings and investments. This way, you're prioritizing your financial future before any other expenses come into play. It might feel a bit tight at first, but trust me, you'll adjust. And the peace of mind that comes with knowing you're building your wealth? Priceless. Let's address one of the biggest culprits of overspending: impulsive buying. We've all been there. You see something shiny and new, and suddenly you just have to have it. But here's a strategy that can make a big difference: the waiting game. When you're tempted to buy something, especially if it's a big purchase, give yourself a cooling off period. Wait a few days or even a couple of weeks if you can. Often you'll find that the urge passes and you realize you didn't need that item after all. During this waiting period, ask yourself some important questions. Is this purchase aligned with your values and long-term goals? Are you buying it because you truly need or want it, or is it just to impress others? Is there a more affordable alternative that could serve the same purpose? These questions can help you make more intentional decisions with your money. Now, let's talk about the power of mindful spending. This isn't about depriving yourself, it's about being more aware of where your money is going and why. Try keeping a spending journal for a month. Write down not just what you got by, but how you were feeling when you made the purchase. Were you stressed, bored, trying to cheer yourself up? This can help you identify emotional spending triggers and find healthier ways to cope with those feelings. Remember, changing habits isn't easy. There will be times when you slip up, and that's okay. The key is to be kind to yourself and keep moving forward. Consider setting up some systems to help you stick to your goals. This could be as simple as unsubscribing from marketing emails that tempt you to spend, or using a budgeting app to track your progress. Let's also talk about the power of delayed gratification. In our instant gratification world, waiting for something can feel almost uncomfortable. But learning to delay purchases can be a game changer for your finances. Start small. If you want to buy something, make yourself wait 24 hours before pulling the trigger. You might be surprised at how often you change your mind. As you work on changing your spending habits, it's important to reframe your relationship with money and possessions. Remember, your worth isn't determined by what you own. Instead of focusing on accumulating stuff, think about how you can use your money to create meaningful experiences and build financial security. One effective way to do this is to shift your focus from things to experiences. Research has shown that spending money on experiences tends to bring more lasting happiness than buying material possessions. Think about activities you enjoy or have always wanted to try. Maybe it's taking a cooking class, planning a weekend getaway with friends, or learning a new skill. These experiences not only enrich your life, but also create memories that last far longer than the temporary high of a new purchase. The happiness factor: why experiences trump possessions. Now, let's talk about something that might surprise you. What if the key to happiness isn't in your shopping cart, but in your calendar? Think about it. When was the last time a purchase truly made you happy for more than a few days? On the other hand, I bet you can easily recall a fantastic trip or a fun night out with friends that still brings a smile to your face. Here's the thing. Research shows that spending money on experiences tends to bring more lasting happiness than buying material possessions. It's not just about the moment itself, but the memories we create and the stories we get to tell. These experiences become part of who we are, shaping our personalities and our relationships in ways that a new gadget or outfit simply can't. Let's do a quick exercise. Close your eyes for a moment and think about your happiest memories. Got them? Now, how many of those memories involve things you bought, and how many are about experiences you had? Chances are most of your fondest memories are tied to experiences, maybe a family vacation, a concert with friends, or even a quiet day spent exploring your own city. So why do experiences pack such a powerful punch when it comes to happiness? Well, it's all about how our brains work. When we buy something new, we get a quick hit of excitement. But that feeling fades pretty fast as we get used to having that item around. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. Basically, we get bored with our stuff pretty quickly. Experiences, on the other hand, tend to get better with time. Even if things don't go perfectly in the moment, we often look back on our experiences with rose-colored glasses. That slightly disastrous camping trip becomes a funny story to tell at parties. The challenges you faced on your solo travel adventure become points of pride as you reflect on how much you've grown. Speaking of growth, that's another big reason why experiences trump possessions in the happiness department. When we try new things or visit new places, we're expanding our horizons and learning about ourselves. Maybe you discover a hidden talent for salsa dancing at a local class, or you realize how resourceful you can be when navigating a foreign city. These experiences contribute to our personal growth in ways that buying things just can't match. And let's not forget about the social aspect of experiences. When we share experiences with others, we're strengthening our relationships and creating shared memories. That weekend getaway with your best friends isn't just fun in the moment. It's creating inside jokes and shared stories that will keep you connected for years to come. Even solo experiences often lead to meeting new people and forming connections that enrich our lives. Now, you might be thinking, but what about that amazing feeling when I buy something I've been wanting for ages? And you're right, there's definitely a thrill in finally getting your hands on something you've been eyeing. But here's where it gets interesting. Research shows that even before we make a purchase, just thinking about buying experiences makes us happier than thinking about buying things. So how can we shift our spending from things to experiences? It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Start small. Instead of buying a new outfit for a night out, maybe put that money towards trying a new restaurant with friends. Instead of upgrading your TV, consider putting that cash towards a weekend trip or a series of local adventures. And here's a pro tip. When you do spend money on experiences, try to stretch them out. If you're planning a vacation, spend time researching and planning. That anticipation is part of the fun. After the trip, take time to look through photos and share stories. This way, you're extending the happiness boost from your experience. But let's be real. We can't just spend all our money on experiences and ignore our financial goals. So how does this tie into building wealth and making smart money moves? Well, it's all about value. When we focus on experiences rather than things, we're often getting more bang for our buck in terms of happiness and life satisfaction. And when we're more satisfied with our lives, we're less likely to fall into the trap of trying to fill an emotional void with unnecessary purchases. Plus, many experiences don't have to cost a lot of money. A hike in nature, a game night with friends, or exploring a new part of your city can all provide that happiness boost without breaking the bank. By focusing on these kinds of experiences, you can actually save money while increasing your overall life satisfaction. the real difference. Looking rich versus being wealthy. Let's talk about something that might surprise you. You know that person with the flashy car and designer clothes? They might not be as wealthy as you think. In fact, the truly rich often don't look rich at all. It's time to unpack the real difference between appearing wealthy and building true financial freedom. Think about what wealth means to you. Is it about having the latest gadgets or the biggest house on the block? Or is it about having peace of mind, knowing you're financially secure? True wealth isn't about what you own, it's about what you have left after you've paid for all those things. Here's the thing. Looking rich and being wealthy are two very different concepts. Looking rich is all about the surface, the fancy clothes, the expensive car, the luxurious vacations. But being wealthy? That's about having a strong financial foundation, a growing net worth, and the freedom to make choices without money stress. Let's consider two different people. Person A drives a luxury car, wears designer clothes, and always seems to be jetting off to exotic locations. Person B, on the other hand, drives a modest car, shops at regular stores, and takes simple vacations. Who do you think is wealthier? Surprisingly, it's often person B. Why? Because they're focused on building wealth, not just looking rich. They understand that true financial success isn't about impressing others. It's about creating a stable and secure future for themselves. Now, you might be wondering, what do wealthy people do differently? Well, they often have some habits in common. They live below their means, save and invest consistently, and focus on growing their net worth rather than their wardrobe. They're not worried about keeping up with the Joneses. They're too busy building their own financial empire. Think about it this way. Every dollar you spend on looking rich is a dollar that's not working for you. When you invest that money instead, it has the potential to grow and create more wealth over time. It's like planting a money tree. The sooner you plant it, the bigger it can grow. But here's where it gets really interesting. A study shows that people who prioritize experiences over material possessions report greater long-term happiness. This means that not only is focusing on experiences better for your wallet, it's also better for your overall well-being. Isn't that something to think about? Let's talk about the freedom that comes with being truly wealthy. When you're not tied down by debt or living paycheck to paycheck, you have more options. You can choose a job you love, even if it pays less. You can take time off to travel or spend time with family. You can weather financial storms without panicking. That's real wealth, the kind that gives you peace of mind and control over your life. So, how can you shift your focus from looking rich to building wealth? Start by thinking about your long-term financial goals. Where do you want to be in 5, 10, or 20 years? Then look at your spending habits. Are they helping you reach those goals, or are they just about keeping up appearances? Consider adopting some wealth-building habits. Start saving and investing regularly, even if it's just a small amount. Live below your means, and resist the urge to buy things just to impress others. Focus on experiences that bring you joy and connection, rather than material possessions that lose their shine quickly. Remember, building wealth is a journey, not a destination. It's about making smart choices day after day, year after year. It might not be as flashy as buying a designer bag, but the results are so much more rewarding. Here's a thought experiment. Imagine you had to choose between looking rich for the next year or being truly wealthy for the rest of your life. Which would you choose? When you think about it that way, the choice becomes clear, doesn't it? Aligning your spending with your values, the path to financial freedom. Let's talk about something that might change how you think about money. Have you ever stopped to consider if your spending actually reflects what matters most to you? It's time to explore how your values and your wallet can work together to create genuine happiness and security. Think about the last few things you bought. Were they truly aligned with what you care about most in life? Or were they just impulse purchases that gave you a quick thrill? When we start spending our money in ways that match our deepest values, it's like unlocking a whole new level of financial freedom. Here's the thing. Many of us are on autopilot when it comes to our spending. We buy things because we think we should, or because everyone else is doing it. But what if we took a step back and really thought about what matters to us? Maybe it's family, travel, education, or making a difference in our community. Whatever it is, aligning our spending with these values can be a game changer. Let's talk about how to figure out what truly matters to you. Take a moment to think about the times you felt most fulfilled or happy. What were you doing? Who were you with? These moments can give you clues about your core values. Maybe you realize that experiences with loved ones matter more to you than having the latest gadgets. Or perhaps you find that learning new skills brings you more joy than buying new clothes. Now, imagine if every dollar you spent was a vote for the life you truly want. How would your spending change? You might find yourself cutting back on impulse buys and instead saving up for that family vacation you've always dreamed of. Or you could start investing in courses that help you grow personally and professionally, rather than spending on things that just collect dust. Creating a value-based spending plan isn't about depriving yourself. It's about making smart money moves that bring you closer to the life you want. Start by listing your top values and then look at your recent expenses. Do they match up? If not, think about how you can shift your spending to better align with what matters to you. When we spend in line with our values, it's not just good for our bank accounts, it's good for our hearts too. You might find that you feel less guilty about your purchases and more satisfied with your life overall. That's because you're not just buying stuff, you're investing in the things that truly make you happy. Let's talk about the emotional benefits of this approach. When your spending matches your values, you're less likely to feel that nagging sense of buyer's remorse. Instead, you'll feel a sense of purpose with every purchase. And that feeling of living authentically, it's priceless. Financial expert Louisa Wilcox emphasizes the importance of asking yourself whether a purchase is truly needed or simply a response to social conditioning. This simple question can be a powerful tool in making more mindful financial decisions. By pausing to reflect, you're giving yourself the chance to make choices that truly align with your values. Think about it. Every time you spend money, you're making a statement about what's important to you. When you start seeing your spending this way, it becomes easier to say no to things that don't matter and yes to the things that do. This shift in perspective can lead to both financial freedom and personal fulfillment. But let's be real. Changing your spending habits isn't always easy. It's normal to feel some resistance or even anxiety when you start examining your financial choices. That's where financial therapy can come in handy. It's a growing field that combines financial planning with mental health support, helping people address the emotional and psychological aspects of their money behaviors. If you find yourself struggling with ego-driven spending or feeling overwhelmed by the idea of changing your financial habits, consider seeking out a financial therapist. They can provide support and strategies to help you align your spending with your values in a way that feels good and sustainable. Remember, this isn't about judging your past spending or beating yourself up over financial mistakes. It's about moving forward with intention and purpose. Every financial decision is an opportunity to reflect your values and move closer to the life you want. As you start to align your spending with your values, you might notice some surprising changes. Maybe you'll find that you're happier with less stuff, but more meaningful experiences. Or perhaps you'll discover that you have more money to put towards your long-term goals, like buying a home or starting a business. Let's take a moment to think about what financial success really means to you. We've all grown up with certain ideas about what it means to be rich or successful. But what if I told you that you have the power to rewrite those rules? Imagine creating your own unique definition of financial success, one that truly aligns with your values and what matters most to you. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but isn't financial success all about having a big house, a fancy car, and a six-figure salary? Well, here's the thing. While those might be markers of success for some people, they might not actually bring you the happiness and fulfillment you're looking for. In fact, research shows that individuals who prioritize experiences over material possessions tend to report higher levels of life satisfaction and happiness. So maybe it's time to take a step back and really think about what financial freedom means in your life. When we talk about redefining success, we're not just talking about ditching society's expectations. We're talking about creating a personal roadmap that leads to genuine contentment and financial well-being. This could mean prioritizing travel and new experiences over accumulating stuff. Or maybe it's about having the freedom to pursue a passion project without worrying about paying the bills. For some, success might look like having enough savings to weather any storm, while for others, it could be the ability to generously support causes they care about. Let's look at an example. Meet Sarah, a young professional who used to measure her success by the brand of her handbag and the number of Instagram likes on her vacation photos. She was always chasing the next big purchase, but never felt truly satisfied. One day, Sarah decided to redefine what success meant to her. She realized that what she really valued was the freedom to take spontaneous weekend trips with her friends and the ability to donate to her favorite animal shelter every month. By shifting her focus from material possessions to these experiences and values, Sarah found herself feeling more fulfilled and less stressed about money. Now, I'm not saying you should completely ignore traditional financial goals. Having a stable income, building savings, and investing for the future are all important. But the key is to make sure these goals are in service of what truly matters to you. Maybe your version of success involves working part-time so you can volunteer more, or living in a smaller home so you can retire early and travel the world. It's also important to remember that your idea of success might change over time. What feels important in your 20s might shift as you enter your 30s, 40s, and beyond. That's why it's crucial to regularly check in with yourself and reassess your financial goals. Are they still aligned with your values? Do they still excite and motivate you? Don't be afraid to adjust your definition of success as you grow and change. When you start to align your spending and saving habits with your personal values, you might notice some surprising changes. You could find that you're happier with less stuff, but more meaningful experiences. Or perhaps you'll discover that you have more money to put towards the things that truly matter to you. Whether that's starting a business, supporting your family, or investing in your community. Now, let's talk about setting personal financial goals that resonate with you. Instead of just saying, "I want to be rich," try getting specific about what that means for you. Maybe your goal is to save enough for a down payment on a house in your favorite neighborhood. Or perhaps it's to build a side hustle that brings in an extra $500 a month. Whatever it is, make sure it's something that genuinely excites you and aligns with your personal definition of success. Here's a practical exercise you can try. Take a piece of paper and write down what living well means to you. Don't think about money at first. Just focus on the lifestyle and experiences you want. Then start breaking that down into specific financial goals. This process can help you create a roadmap that's truly meaningful to you, rather than one based on what society or social media tells you success should look like. Remember, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to financial success. What works for your best friend or your coworker might not be the right fit for you. The most important thing is to be honest with yourself about what you truly value and what brings you joy. When you align your financial decisions with these personal values, you're more likely to feel satisfied and content, regardless of the number in your bank account. Your financial empowerment starts now. Let's talk about your financial empowerment journey. It's not about the car you drive or the clothes you wear. It's about feeling confident and in control of your money. Remember, your worth isn't tied to your stuff or your salary. You have the power to make smart choices that align with your values and long-term goals. Start small by questioning your purchases. Ask yourself, does this align with what really matters to me? Maybe it's saving for a dream trip or building an emergency fund. Each time you choose not to buy something unnecessary, you're investing in your future self. It might feel tough at first, but stick with it. As you practice mindful spending and see your savings grow, you'll feel a sense of pride and accomplishment that no designer bag can match. Your financial confidence will grow with each smart decision you make. Before you know it, you'll be the one giving money advice to your friends. So take that first step today. Your